Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Fire Up. Yes, Fire Up. And the title of the show says it all. Are you excited? And I'm going to guess that most of you aren't as excited with as much as at least two of us on this panel tonight, because just for all of your information, next week there will not be a Fire Up show on this station on Thursday night. And you're going to ask why. And the reason is the reason that me and I think Jeremy are really excited. George might be a little excited, but I think me and Jeremy are probably way more excited because we get the honor of covering our very first NFL draft. I have never been, so this will be my first time. I don't even know if Scott has actually covered a draft. He's been in a team facility for a team for the draft, but not at the actual draft, I don't believe. George, have you?
No. I covered one NBA draft in Detroit and one NHL draft in Detroit. And of course, this is the first draft in Detroit history for the NFL. So no, it's the first time for me too. Woo!
Yeah. Like I said earlier, and I'm going to tell you right now, rocket scientist, before you leave, because I know you said good night, I'm as excited as a schoolgirl getting ready to buy her first dress for her first prom day.
We are just excited because we have followed the NFL, Jeremy more so than I, for years and years and years. And to have this new experience and to be honored that the NFL recognizes us and is allowing us to come be a part of this experience is awesome. It's awesome.
You bet.
I can't wait. I don't know what next week looks like. I'll be honest, because I've never been there. So it'll be interesting to see. But we will share as much as we can with you all. We will be recording whether we go live or we record things and put them up on our YouTube after the fact. I'm not exactly sure. I know Jeremy's going to be doing some with his shows too. So it kind of depends, because it depends on the setup and where we're at, if it's too loud for us to be where we're at, or if there's certain areas we can do shows from, we will. But I do know Tuesday night we're going to do a special edition, I believe, of Inside the Pigskin, and we're going to be talking about the NFL draft. I do know that Scott was on a conference call about the NFL draft yesterday, and it was 2 hour long, talking about the draft picks and where people think they're going to go and stuff like that. So we're all excited. I mean, I'll be honest, I know I'm coming to the Motor City, and it is Lions country, but we're coming for the NFL. So that's what's fun and important. And like I said, I've never been. And then from there, Scott and I are going to head to Toronto maybe for a day, and then Niagara Falls. And I've never seen either of those. So I'm uber excited. I got to get through another day of work tomorrow, but we're going to get there. We're going to be there, and I'm going to be in person with you guys. So, great. Jeremy, you want to talk a little bit about your level of excitement?
Oh. Yeah, I'm just way too excited. I got something to send you, because you said you want to know what the draft stage is going to look like. I have a mock-up, and that is I just got to get to it again. I have a mock-up of the draft stage.
Okay.
It was an artist rendering of what they're doing. Might as well make a full northern trip and see Milwaukee for the future home of the Pack.
No, they're not going to Wisconsin this time.
So, and I will tell you, Orlando, Milwaukee is not north of Green Bay. So actually it wouldn't, but I've been to both, but
it is
we
north
will not be making we won't be we won't be making the trip to Wisconsin this trip. We will be making one sometime this summer, but this trip we will not be. We will be concentrated in Detroit and then up to Toronto and Niagara Falls and then back home. So, but I know we want to talk about things tonight. I wanted to talk a little bit about NBA and the playoffs. I'm not quite as familiar with them as some people are, but I do know that I feel bad for Jimmy Butler because Jimmy Butler, Orlando, yes, we're gonna go to the Canada side to see Niagara because I've heard that's the better side to see it from. So we will see it from that side. But back to Jimmy Butler suffers an MCL sprain and is out for several weeks. That is a huge blow to the Miami Heat. And I feel bad for him.
Yeah.
You know, he works hard. He is a hard worker. And
there it is. I sent it to you if you want to put it up. That is a mock-up of what the draft stage will be at in Detroit. Send it to you through Messenger.
Oh, you got it through Messenger? Okay, let me see what I can do. But yeah, so I'm sad for the Heat because I know that without Jimmy Butler, I don't know how far they'll go. Not that I'm a huge Heat fan, but it's still it's sad. That does look pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it.
And I do not know where our setup exactly will be either. So
yeah, I don't know if I know that with the way they said that the stage is going to face north in the park, I believe it is. Is that the park right next to the Renaissance Center, George, where they're setting up?
No, the Renaissance Center is further at the on the river. This is the park where the ice skating, where the Christmas tree is lit, and there's ice skating during the winter. It's called Campus Martius, and
Okay,
that's where they got that giant stage. So that's the one footprint. But then all the streets going all the way down Woodward to Jefferson and the water, those will all be blocked off for fans too. So
right.
it's going to be incredibly crowded. That's a good thing. That's
And
a good thing.
the NFL access that we have, that's a little bit different than like getting it from just the Lions or the Packers and stuff like that, right?
Correct. It's an interesting point because I told some of my media friends, I says, really, if you're a media member in Detroit, you had three options. You could ask the team if you want to cover Allen Park, where their headquarters, they're still going to be there. The Brain Trust is still going to be at Allen Park. There are the beat writers that stay there. That's their home for draft night.
Right.
The Lions are hosting a season ticket party at Ford Field by invitation only. So
What do you think?
media, yeah. And then this one, of course, as you see, is the biggie of all. Of course, the NFL and the draft experience and the stage and everything else. I don't know where exactly the media room is going to be. I have not got that clarified. I'm not sure what part of the experience where we're going to actually be physically located. But there's
Right.
going to be stuff. Also, there's all kinds of things going on. Yeah, downtown.
And somebody said, "Are you going to take enough money to eat?" And I was like, "Have you ever been to a press thing?" They said the media gets food.
Yeah, yeah. But for some of the big things like this, though, it's a box lunch, but it's still good.
Right.
Because they can't when you got the attendance of this type. They did it at the Super Bowl. They've done it at the All-Star games. That's the easiest way for them to do it, a box lunch, which includes a piece of fruit, cookies, sandwich, chips, or whatever, So, yeah, it's not a big buffet because they would never get everybody through the buffet
Okay.
line.
I was wondering.
Yeah,
well, and the
So
fact that it's going to be how many hours? Most sporting events that we go to are a window of what, 2, 3, 4 hours. Granted, there's pre and post, but I think with the draft, it's a longer time frame too. So I think
well,
it'll probably just be easier.
just to put it in perspective, you're only allowed 50 hours before you got to buy more storage for StreamYard or Restream or anything like that. Every year, 21 hours is the full draft coverage.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize, how much the full draft coverage really is. If you're doing the 1 hour pre, the 1 hour post, plus the draft itself, it averages out at 7 hours per day.
Yeah, because Thursday night, of course, is just round one.
Yeah, but they have the longer time clock.
Right,
Isn't it 15
right.
minutes between each pick? I think they get right off the
Yeah.
rip.
Yeah, it'll probably go every bit of, what do you think? Midnight it might end on Thursday or 11:30? I'm not sure.
It usually ends right about 11 o'clock, but
Oh,
after
does
you
it?
do your post show and everything
Yeah.
else and you go over your reviews, it's midnight.
Yeah.
The coverage ends at midnight.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to leave right when it's over
Oh
at
no.
11 o'clock. You don't want to be trying to get to your car and pull out of where you're at.
Right.
Usually
Ted,
11:30ish. Yeah, James Burgess is exactly right, because that's when I would sign off, as between 11:30ish and whatever.
okay. In Orlando, you hit a really good one there, my friend. Orlando said the Golden Fleece should cater. The Golden
Yes,
Fleece is a longtime Detroit Greek restaurant, and it's a good one. So I'm glad you brought that up, Orlando. And listen, I don't pretend to be in the know. As far as the food, they may have made arrangements with local restaurants in Detroit. They just not told us. But yeah, that sometimes like a taste of Detroit or a taste of Michigan. They might have Coney Islands. They might have Sanders hot fudge sundaes. They might have big boy sandwiches.
right. You never
Hamburgers.
know.
We don't know.
Anytime, anytime you're getting something for free, guess what? It tastes great.
They might have Little
Right.
Caesars pizza. You never know.
Well, yeah, there you go. And we know
Mhm.
Detroit loves its pizza.
Yes, yes.
Tom Monahan owned the Tigers, and then he, made a big name for himself with Domino's. And then you got Mike Ilitch with Little Caesars. Detroit's been known for being a pizza town.
And Orlando, a lot of the hotel rooms are already taken, so we could not get in at the Hilton. We do know that some of our friends from Sideline are staying at Caesars over at Windsor. They're even staying in a different country than some of us. So some of us are out in the suburbs, as we will call it, because they're expecting over 300,000 people to come to your city.
And before anyone asks, yes, I will be properly groomed and looking good as best I can. Jeremy has contact. Tell him to call Diddy. It wasn't Diddy. I told you that this morning.
You brought up a good point. You got up, if I can interject here, Candy brought up a good point about the hotel rooms, because so often we hear, oh, Detroit, sorry, you can't bid on such and such because you don't have enough hotel rooms that are nearby. How many years we've heard that refrain? So, in other words, I give the league a lot of credit, because they could have said, Mrs. Ford, Mrs. Sheila, no, I think you better wait a few more years. You got to put up a few more hotel towers. But they didn't do it. So and then you get the other side of the story. Adam Silver or Gary Bettman, oh, well, you can't get the All-Star game yet because you don't have enough rooms near Little Caesars Arena. Well, that's hogwash, because you see what the NFL did. They awarded Detroit with all these thousands of visitors. And as you said, I mean, some people are staying in Windsor or staying in Farmington Hills or Dearborn or wherever. So it's kind of a weird, what shall we say, position that some of the leagues take about Detroit, whether using the scapegoat, I call it, as not enough hotel rooms. And
There's
of
no
course,
hotel rooms.
Detroit hosted the Super Bowl, of course, too, years ago.
There's also no hotel rooms from the south side of Flint through Grand Blanc. All of those are
Wow.
booked up for this weekend, and they have been booked up since January.
Wow.
So if you think about it, that's actually not that far of a commute if you're not dealing with a crap load of traffic. To drive to Detroit is always easier than it is to get out. I've been saying this for years because I used to deliver water down there and
Uh-huh.
into the Troy area, down by Big Beaver and 14 Mile and 12
Oh yeah.
Mile. And as long as I got my route done by 3:30 in the afternoon, I could make it home before 6. But if I didn't, especially during Christmas time, I would not make it home till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I would spend
Oh
5 hours in traffic.
wow. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Burgess admits to that. He says, yeah, hotels along I-75 all the way to Holly and Grand Blanc are booked, and many of them are running special shuttles too for a small fee down to the draft.
That's a good thing to do. Yep.
I mean, why not? Why not bank on it? We're talking about hundreds of dollars per room because they jacked up the price for a special event.
Oh yeah.
The hotels you could usually get for $75, you're going to be paying 125 to 150 for.
Yep. Another comment there, Orlando, you made about Detroit. And yes, that's interesting that you bring that up about the Olympics. The Motor City had several attempts. They made several attempts to host the Summer Olympic Games. And the last time they wanted it was 1968. They were beaten out by Mexico City. And I'll never forget this. One of the sportscasters in town named Dave Dials, who used to work for ABC Channel 7, Dave Dials came out of a meeting, and when they had that vote, you could hear the Mexican delegation cheering wildly. And out the door of this hotel room comes Fred Mathai. Fred Mathai was the head of the Detroit organizing committee. And I'll never forget this clip that Dave Dials, the sportscaster, went up to him and he said, "Fred, I this doesn't look like it's good for Detroit." And I swear this guy was going to cry. This Detroit, or that's the last time we attempted was to get the 68 Olympics, which they voted on, I think, back in 63 or 64. But Detroit, it's just an unbelievable expensive proposition to host the Olympics. That's why they go to cities like Atlanta and LA, that have a lot more money. Even New York was turned down. But anyways, I'm digressing here about Detroit and the Olympics.
Yeah. But didn't we also try to get in for the 2024 one and we got as high as third in the voting this time? If I remember right, I read
Uh,
something about that last 2 years ago when they were deciding.
I don't think so, but I could check on that to see. I
Because
know yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if it was the 2024 or it was back in 2018 with the 20
Okay.
Olympics. I know we
Yeah.
got into one of them, and the highest we've ever been ranked in the top 5 was 3
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah. And you do bring up a good point, Jeremy, because you first have to go through your own country and see who's bidding against you. For example, it could be Detroit, Atlanta, New York, and Philly. And like you said, they have to they have to inspect all the areas, and then the nation, the national committee looks at all the sites first. And you're right. I think we did have a bid, like you said, several years back. But that being said, the problem with the Olympics now is the fact that they're so expensive. They're probably going to end up going back to most of the cities that we were in before.
Right.
Why it's taken Paris, France, 100 years to get the Olympics back is beyond me. I couldn't believe when they said it. Paris hasn't had the Summer Games, but anyways. That's just for another day.
Grand Rapids could take an event or two here and there. Orlando. They probably
Yeah,
could. I think the only place other than Detroit that is second highest in hotels is the Grand Rapids or Kalamazoo area, something like that.
I believe it.
Do it like halfway in between, like in Holland, and be able to cover both cities for that.
Yeah, that's a thought. Okay, Candy.
Yes, yes. Okay, so off with the Olympics. We're done with the Olympics. So we did a little bit about the NBA. Jeremy, you had a topic that you kind of wanted to bring forward.
And I brought it forward as a pundit point because I thought it needed to be, because we don't just talk about sports on pundits. We do cover the political side of things. But as far as the sports side of it, like I said, the Vermont Valley Christian Catholic School, the girls were playing for the semifinal to go to the national championships in high school. They found out there was a biological male on the other team, and they forfeited. They refused to play, and they were forced to forfeit. And I personally feel it should have been the other way around, because that's a distinct advantage. You can say what you want, but a biological male is stronger, faster, able to jump higher, and able to do more than any woman. And this is not being sexist. This is not being, there's a reason why there's a delineation between the WNBA and the NBA, why there's the lingerie football league and the NFL. There's a line there, and it shouldn't be crossed. Unless you can do the job as good as a man, you shouldn't be playing with the men.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, I think this whole issue has gotten way, way further along than I ever expected it to. But I'm just saying that obviously that does require a great deal of investigation, because I'm with you. I don't think it's fair at all. You know, the women's swim team at a high school or a college, and then all of a sudden, like we've seen happen, where somebody has done a sex change operation, and you got this guy who says he's now female, winning, running away with it, like you said, stronger, faster, better swimmer in this case. And it isn't fair to the other teammates and the other females on the squad, so to speak. And I don't know. It's just it's a thorny issue, but it's something that's really hitting hard lately. I'm glad you brought that up, Jeremy, about the situation in Vermont.
Hmm. What do you think, Candy?
I agree with you. If you are born a man, I understand, and I don't know that I do understand this, but if you do no longer want to be a man and you feel that you should be a woman, that's fine. That's your choice. That's your prerogative. But if you want to compete, you need to compete with people that are biologically like you.
Amen.
Period. Whether because like you said, biologically you are built differently. A male body is built differently than a female body, and rightfully so. And yes, you can have some operations to change the aesthetics or the appearance of your body, but physically you are still the same. And so I have a big problem. I'm glad they walked away and said we're not going to compete against them. They shouldn't. It shouldn't even have come to that. Uh, if you want to have a co-ed league, then have a co-ed league, and then
Amen.
I don't have a problem.
It's just like when they do mixed doubles bowling.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You have to have at least one woman on your roster,
Mm-hmm.
or you cannot have a team.
Mm-hmm. I've played co-ed softball, and you had both. And in fact, when I played co-ed softball, there were special rules because they said if you ever intentionally walked the male, you'd automatically walk the female behind, because it was not fair that you were trying to just pitch to one sex or the other. So they have special rules for when you're playing co-ed. And I'll never forget the time when one of the first games I played in the league that year, and the guys would always move way up that were playing in the outfield because they're like, "Oh, you girls can't hit."
Yeah.
Mind me to tell you, I can't hit. I put it over your head. Thank you very much. You keep moving in, and I loved that. That
Yeah.
made. He's like, "Dang, I shouldn't have moved up so far in." But
Yeah.
They
um,
it's an assumption, and
mhm.
it's an assumption based off of genetics. It's been proven, but at the same time, there are women who have proven they are better than some men at some sports.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the professional wrestling world. China was once the heavyweight champion of the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody forgets that she won the title. She only held it for a week, but she won the title.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
People,
and another thing is that the female golfers, especially a lot of the young ladies from Asia, China, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan. I mean, they've dominated the women's LPGA tour the last many, many years. Nothing against the American girls, but I'm talking about if there was a competition with the females and the males, I'm not quite so sure that the men would win every time because there are a lot of excellent female golfers out there. And they, obviously have their own pro tour, is what I'm talking about. And the other thing, of course, you got to go way back in history. And I know people thought of it was a gimmick when Bobby Riggs played Billie Jean King in the tennis exhibition match. Remember at the Astrodome? Yep. And Bobby got his what handed to him. Billie Jean King, one of the greatest, if not the greatest tennis player of all time. Billie Jean King handed it right back to him. And I know he was a little bit older at the time, but that was a battle of the sexes that they called that match.
what did Serena Williams say about playing Rafael Nadal?
Oh yeah,
6-1, 6-1, 6-1.
yeah,
I'll win one segment of each leg of the match.
yeah,
I'll lose all three.
yeah.
Oh God, you're asking me something. Who's the chick who struck Babe Ruth and Gehrig in an exhibition game?
Does she mean struck out? I'm sorry. Does James mean strike out?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Murray, if he remembers right, is the last name.
Ah,
But there's exceptions all the time. Yep, struck out Ruth and Gehrig, as in Cade.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know, because there's subtle differences in how they throw and everything else. But at the time, if you remember right, when Lou Gehrig and Babe Ruth were still playing, they were exempt from going to fight in the war, so they were here because they were too old to be drafted at the time. Because it used to be if you were over the age of 28, you couldn't be drafted. That was the old rule. It's
yep,
something like that, or 26. So they were already older than that when World War II hit, and they were here. And those girls that played in the girls' league that they made the movie A League of Their Own about, they actually were really decent ball players. And I couldn't believe when they showed the pictures of the real people next to them from back when they played, how closely accurate they got the girls to play the parts of the Rockford Peaches.
yeah.
It was
Mm-hmm.
actually pretty amazing how close they actually looked like them. South Park's Macho Man Randy Savage just yelled transphobe. It may be transphobe, and then hermaphrodite. There's always exceptions to the rule. That is a genetic mutation. You can't help it. It happens.
Yep.
The
Mm-hmm.
Muskegon women's team was really good. They still got a display for them over there. Yes. As a matter of fact, the women's baseball league from back then has a whole section at the Hall of Fame.
As well, they should.
Yeah, because they were playing because the major league couldn't.
So one of the other topics I really wanted to quick get to is NHL approved today the Coyotes move to Salt Lake City. So goodbye Arizona. Hello Salt Lake City. So what do we think about that move, gentlemen?
I think it's a good move. I Salt Lake City is one of those cities that I think a winner. Okay, so you got Denver, Salt Lake City, and Lake Placid. And there was a city in California called Squaw Valley that once hosted the Winter Olympics. But Salt Lake City, of course, did a terrific job when they had the Olympics. A gentleman named Mitt Romney, who I know we've heard of, was the host committee chairperson. So Salt Lake City does like winter sports, number one. Number two, they have a basketball team. Okay, so let's not just say, oh, well, they don't play pro sports there. Well, no, you're wrong. The Salt Lake City Jazz moved from New Orleans and became the Salt Lake City, or the Utah Jazz, excuse me, with Karl Malone and John Stockton and, some great teams they had there. Jerry Sloan was their coach. Hockey is going to succeed because they love their winter sports. So I think it's a brilliant move by the NHL. NHL bought the team from Arizona, from the current owner down there in Phoenix, and then obviously the league is going in to sponsor this team. And then I guess Candy and Jeremy, what I heard was 5 or 6 years from now, or whatever, they're giving a time limit that this current owner of the Coyotes, who will be an ex-owner, will be given a certain time frame. If he can get the funding together and get that stadium built, then they would grant, I understand, an expansion team back to Arizona. Kind of a weird way to do it, but I think they're being fair that way. That's my take on it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I agree. I mean, Phoenix, they have been in need of a new stadium for so long. The arena that they're playing in, the arena has a hockey capacity of 12,000. The franchise collected 11,000 season ticket deposits within hours of the sale. I, you know, I've actually been to Arizona. I've actually seen Coyotes play. And I've seen them play in both. They played in two different arenas, and I've seen them play in both. Believe it or not, because that's highly unusual. Because I haven't gone. I've only seen four hockey stadiums. I've seen the Coyotes. I've seen the Red Wings. I mean, I've seen the two for the Red Wings. I've seen in Milwaukee they play the AHL, and of course I've seen the Panthers. So it's unusual that I've seen both in Arizona, but they needed to do something, and they weren't going to build a stadium for them, and they couldn't figure out where they wanted to put it, and they fought about this and they fought about that, and you know if you don't want the team, this is what's going to happen. And Salt Lake City wanted the team, so good for them. Give them to a team, give them to a place that wants them. I don't know about this whole 5 year. Then he can get another expansion team. If he couldn't find the right place to have a team now, why would you think in 5 years it's going to change? So, but good move for them.
Robert Waddell's exactly right. They did default on the hotel bills because it isn't the visiting team that pays for that. The home team pays for a visiting team's floor while they're there. And they defaulted on paying the local hotel over the last 2 seasons because they didn't have the money. So if you don't have the money to pay the hotel bill, you definitely don't have the money to renovate or build an arena. Guess what? You don't deserve a team. I'm a little upset it's going to Utah. I wish it had went to Kansas City because they have the facility there already.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. I think that Kansas City Scouts, they were called, and they tried it there. It just did not succeed. In fact, the general manager was a former Detroit, well, he's a Hall of Fame player, Sid Abel. Sid Abel was brought in with good background, good hockey minds, and they still couldn't succeed. So that being said, that one doesn't cross my mind too much, Jeremy. I mean, I know it's a big enough city, but I don't think that they'd be able to support it. It's just my gut feeling.
And the only reason why I say that is because they built that pro style NHL size hockey rink that has the arena to seat up to 15,000, which is actually
Oh yeah. I hear you.
I'm saying they had the facility ready, but at the same time, Utah still has the facility ready because Salt Lake hosted the Olympics, and they have that building sitting there just being used for youth sports.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, can I interject? I just want to mention one. Ken Cal, who's the voice of the Red Wings on radio. This is what he said today. He says, "I'm sad that the Coyotes are leaving Arizona. It was a great place to be, especially if you had an off day. In March, you could go to a Cactus League baseball game. The weather was great, lots of places to eat too. I'm going to miss it."
Right.
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, the voice
Class
of the
act.
Red Wings.
Class act.
Yeah,
You know who I feel sad for? I feel sad for the fans of Arizona, the fans that supported them. I mean, they're not going to reach into their pocket and build a stadium or anything like that, but I feel bad for those fans. I feel bad for any fans that actually support the team that they lose. Because let's face it, there have been NFL teams that have jumped ship and moved. There have been NBA teams that have moved. There have been
baseball,
NHL,
baseball.
baseball that have lost teams. And I feel bad for those fans. That's who I really feel bad for because this is a business and I get that. And there's owners out there that are making
Billions.
millions, if not billions of dollars. But it's the family of four that now they don't have a team to go to. They'll have to travel if they wanted to go to it. You know, those are the people I feel the worst
Yeah,
for.
that's true. That's true.
You know,
I do
and
too.
the economics of the city. You know, you had an NHL team. People might go to that to see. You know, you hear of. I one of my biggest regrets, I would say, is my dad and I had started to. At one point, we went to all the Big Ten football stadiums, to a bunch of them. We never got to all of them, you know, and so you hear of these families or father son or father daughter that go to all of the NBA facilities or all of the NHL facilities or all the MLB facilities or the NHL. They want to visit all the different teams and stuff like that. So there's an economic impact that Arizona will feel because people will not be going there and spending money at the restaurants around where the stadium is now and in that. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting, but I do feel bad for those fans.
Yeah, and like
And
Robert Lardell says, NBA stole my Sonics. And there's another team, the Seattle Supersonics, all those years succeeded. I mean, maybe not to an extreme degree, but they succeeded. And like you said, Candy and Jeremy, they've got strong fan base and all that. And that's another city that was vacated, just like we mentioned Kansas City in hockey. And then don't forget Oakland, what they've gone through with losing the Raiders more than once in the NFL, and several other teams, of course, too. St. Louis, the Rams abandoned St. Louis, even after they won a Super Bowl.
And think about it, St. Louis has been abandoned twice.
That's right, the Cardinals.
St. Louis was the second team that the second city that the Cardinals went to, was there for decades. Then all of a
Yeah,
sudden said, we're going to Arizona. Then the LA Rams wasn't getting the attendance at the Coliseum needed to be able to help upkeep, but USC and UCLA was. So they moved out to St. Louis, and then they sell out because the kids didn't want to have anything to do with running a football team, which is idiotic. And they
yeah,
said, "Oh, we'll just sell it to a guy that's in LA. He builds a big place outside the city. It's actually hard to get to. The SoFi Stadium is not even close. It's in actually Orange County. It's not even in the Los Angeles area. So you got to
mm,
commute. If the traffic's good, an hour just to get there.
yeah.
If the traffic's bad, it might take you 3 hours.
Oh
And
my,
I feel sorry for the St. Louis. And I have the feeling if there's ever an expansion team, St. Louis and Albuquerque, New Mexico will get it because Albuquerque, New Mexico, ever since that's been Jeff Bezos' headquarters, is actually a booming city and gaining in population. And that would be two cities prime to add expansion teams in the NFL.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, well, any other topics you guys want to bring up? Because I know we still have to do my town segment. So,
Oh, well, that's all right.
George, what is happening in your town?
Well, as Jeremy knows, we got two things that are prominent in the sports world, and one would be the Red Wings, and how sad to see the Red Wings miss the playoffs. But I'm sorry, they have only themselves to blame. I mean, you cannot go through a season with long losing streaks like they did on a couple of occasions, 6, 7 game losing streaks, and then expect to just try to, you know, edge your way in at the very end. Now, I'm taking nothing away from those dramatic come from behind wins this past week. It was so exciting, both on the road and at home. And but it was bittersweet because your fan base has been waiting 7, 8 years for the Red Wings to get back to the playoffs, and they came so close. And you talk about the fans; those are the ones I feel for because, like you said before, Candy, they're paying these salaries, they're paying the high prices, they're paying to take their families to a game and have a good restaurant, a beer or two, or pizza, or whatever they're going to have. But the Red Wings came oh so close, and that really, really was hard to take. Washington Capitals, of course, they did it fair and square, and they got in ahead of Detroit. But it was a very, very sad last couple of days here in Detroit because of that situation. I, for one, think that it was a good sign. It was positive. They haven't been competing in the spring for God knows how many years. Not even had a chance to go down to the wire. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in the offseason because Steve Yzerman picked up a lot of veteran players last year during free agency. I'm not quite so sure how much he's going to do this year or if all those guys they they all won't come back, but if he wants to even keep all those guys that were just 1 point shy. That's and so it's the end of hockey in Detroit again for another spring.
So I want to add to that because I
Sure.
did pay attention to that, especially at the end. And yes, their March was horrible. The Pistons won more games than the Red Wings in the month of March. Granted, it was only one, and they play a lot more games than what the Red Wings do. But still, as bad as the Pistons are, they won more games than the Red Wings, which was a good team in the month of March. But at the same time, when the Philadelphia Flyers found out going into the shootout or into overtime that the Red Wings had knocked them out of the playoffs, they pulled their goalie and let the Washington Capitals score a goal in overtime.
Yeah.
That is what kept us out. Because if there was a loss, the Red Wings was in. That was what was announced. If there was a loss that night, because the Capitals had to lose, then the Red Wings were in. And we won our game. We did the part. We weren't
Yeah.
back going in. We won the game. Granted, in a shootout, but they came back in Red Wing fashion. That's what they've done all year. That second period is awful. And it's mostly, if you look at it, look at our defensemen. We have a good one and an okay one on the front line. In the middle two lines, we got mediocre to awful. And then we got a good one and an okay one on the grind line. We don't have anybody for the second and third lines on defense, which is why our goalies look like chapupu.
Yeah. Good
But at
point.
the same time,
Mm-hmm.
Sheila Ford Hamp comes out and says 2023 was phase one of completing the rebuild. It was winning the division and going far into the playoffs. And they managed to do that. They played their third game in the playoffs since they were world championships. I mean, since 1957, people. And now, phase two, 2024. She didn't say she promised, so don't put those words in her mouth. She said the goal is the Lombardi Trophy. And their mantra last year is "It takes more." And I pray to God that means more running the football in the third quarter.
Yeah.
So, and as far as anyone's concerned, as you all know, last year when we drafted Hendon Hooker, because I projected it on Thanksgiving before the season even ended, as soon as he was hurt and who we hired as an assistant coach, that Hendon Hooker would be a Lion if he was there in the third round. The Hendon Hooker jersey I bought was a throwback. It was a black jersey. I had it custom made on purpose because I knew the blacks were coming back.
There you go.
So, my town. Well, we were talking about the transfer portal on Pundit's Pundit. We have now seen both Chucky Hepburn of the Badgers and I'm sorry, and now I'm going to forget his name. He was the kid that came to us from New Jersey. They both have entered the transfer portal. What's his name? I'm sorry, guys. Stokes. As we have talked about with the transfer portal, you are not only recruiting players outside your program, you are recruiting your program as well. Wisconsin, you need to do something, because if you want to stay relevant and you want to stay, and I'm not going to say what that is, because I don't know if Greg Gard is the answer or not anymore, because we seem to have fallen down a little bit. The days of Bo Ryan, we need a good coach, strong coach like that back. But what I will say is that to all of the athletes that are doing all these transfers, just make sure that the decision is good for you. And that's what I'm going to say, that it's the right decision for you and that you're making the decision for the right reasons. I'm not saying Wisconsin is the best collegiate school. And I will say that I do know that there are some in the Big Ten have higher academic standards than other schools. So I do know sometimes it's harder to recruit some of the talents. But kids, just make sure that you're doing the right decision for you. Michigan surprisingly dodging big losses, 3 years of probation. Wisconsin should have a good selling platform. They've been the cream of the division for years. Yeah, we've had some good coaches and stuff like that. But the other thing I will say is good luck to the Bucks. The Bucks are in the playoffs, although they're having some injuries right now. Giannis, of course. And the Brewers, knock on wood, are at the top of the division right now. And yes, they are ahead of the Cubs, even though it's only by a half game. But losing our coach to the Cubbies, Mr. Craig Counsell, right now is not as big of a factor as maybe some of us might have thought. But I do say kudos to Jackson Churio. He is a rookie that got a big contract, so he is not considered a rookie. So he cannot win Rookie of the Year because they signed him to a contract before the season. And yet he has hit, I want to say, like 13 home runs in so many games. So why couldn't the Brewers in the NL back when Robin Yount kept kicking our
Amen.
because they were moved when who got the team that then they moved that was back?
You talk about Seattle Pilots?
Well,
the
no,
Braves.
the Brewers moved from the American League to the National League because there was another team that they formed.
The
Was it Houston?
Astros joined the American League.
I was going to say the Astros. Exactly.
Which is
So
great
that's-
because they have a big rivalry now with Texas Rangers. Yeah.
Mhm.
And Milwaukee had that National League heritage, remember, with Henry Aaron?
Yep, and then they went to Atlanta. They went for, wasn't it the Milwaukee Braves, and then it became
Yes.
the Atlanta
Yes.
Braves,
Very,
and
very
then it
good,
was
Jeremy. Yeah. And the Brewers got the team because, yeah, they moved from Seattle. Yeah.
right.
Right.
Yep,
Mhm.
and the Seattle Pilots came from Washington. That was the Senators.
No, the
No,
Senators moved to Texas to become the Rangers.
and then and
There was always a Senators team, but it was there originally, not Montreal Expos. Now they moved,
Mhm.
became the what? The Washington Nationals?
I think so. Yeah.
I think they did.
Senators became the San Diego Padres because all they did was change the look of the Senator logo to become the Padres, and then the Nationals went in because they didn't have a team forever.
I think it was no. I thought it was the. We'll get it. We'll get it straight. But I'm pretty sure Washington moved to Texas because I remember it. Ted Williams was the manager of the Washington Senators. And then I remember seeing him in a Texas Rangers uniform, I'm pretty sure. But we'll check on that. There's been a lot of hopscotching around. It's hard to keep track of all that. You're right. There's so much of it going on.
There's been so many major leagues had more movement than the NFL, and the NFL's had a lot.
Yeah.
Remember, at one time, Cleveland became the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Colts became the Indianapolis Colts. They're still
Right.
there.
Houston
Chicago
Oilers.
was the team and then became the Bears.
And
Houston
the
Oilers.
Oilers moved to Tennessee, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now the Houston has a team again in the Texans, and I actually like the current version better than the Oilers.
Yeah.
I'm just saying they look good, and they did the Madden AI projection prior to the draft, and guess who's in the Super Bowl? Houston Texans,
Oh, come
the
on.
Detroit Lions.
Really?
Yep,
Oh, man. That would
yep.
be something.
And the Detroit Lions was originally founded in 1930 as the Portsmouth Spartans.
Yeah. From Ohio. Correct.
But the
Yep.
Arizona Cardinals was the very first established pro league team prior to the NFL even being made. It was established in 1896.
Wow. That's a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I got.
You know what? That's all I've got. Let's go over how people can get a hold of us. So, George, why don't you go ahead and start?
You can find me on the South Florida Tribune. I write under the Motor City Tribune, and at the end of my column, there's a picture that looks just like this guy, just like Jeremy. Jeremy's face. It's called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. Thank you so much for anybody who supported and bought a copy of it. Scott's in the book, a very young Scott, with Muhammad Ali and another fellow named Jimmy Connors. But there's a link to purchase the book on Amazon, or you can just go to Amazon. You can find me at all the social media aspects. Uh, Twitter is SN SandG Sports 99. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook under my name, and you can find me, of course, under the South Florida Tribune. And also, I'm happy to be on these shows. That love talking to everybody. And 108 Stitches and Pundit's Pundit and Fire Up at the Sports Exchange. And I just appreciate the opportunity and good seeing you guys all tonight.
Okay, Jeremy, how can we get a hold of you?
Well, of course, right here on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. But if you want to see my writings, it is under the southfloridatribune.com, right underneath George Eichhorn, actually. You let's scroll down about 3-4 guys, and look, like right now, underneath them. That's where I belong. I'm the rookie in the journalism crew. But I'm working on it. I'm getting better all the time, I'm told. Have you
You
had to
are.
read as much lately, Candy?
No. Nope.
Good. I've been working on the grammar and writing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, you can find me on my channel. I'm live 8 times a week. 3 primetime shows at 9 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Wednesday being the NFL show called the Roundtable Talk. The rest of them are Lions Talk with Smoke and Jeremy B at 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. I talk for an hour minimum. Today it went an hour and a half because it was just a ball in the chat, and somebody asked me why I got into it. So I actually laid it all on the table. I told the whole sad start to the story to when I started it. And, I, I with what's happening this year, it's now one of those old after school special made for TV movies type things that we used to see as a kid you don't see anymore. And yes, James Burgess says he still says naughty things on his main channel. Yes, I do, just not as much as I used to. But if somebody pokes the bear, they get the teeth. That's all I got to say.
Yes. But you do podcasting, right? Your own channel.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, and I didn't name it. Motor City kneecap biting with the Motor City Lions. Yes.
Yes, yes. Scott, who's normally not on this show, but we still promote him because he's the whole reason why we all are here together on the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. He wrote this book. Sorry, Jeremy, you probably are lifting it up and no one can see it right now. Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. See, George has got his copy.
There's mine.
There's Jeremy's. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Apple Books, and Google Books. We are working on the audio version to come later sometime this year. It's not as easy to coordinate that, but there's a picture of Scott with like young Tommy Lasorda, young Muhammad Ali. But Scott is a good storyteller, and he's got all kinds of stories to tell about his time in the media business and how the media has changed over his 40 plus years in the business. So go out, grab that book. Go to our YouTube channel and hit that red subscribe button. If you see it, that means you haven't subscribed yet. And then for those of you that have subscribed, thank you for subscribing. But now share it to all your friends and family so that they can see it too. On Monday nights, we talk baseball, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Tuesday nights, we talk football, Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights, Scott normally does a Motor City Mad Mouse show, which is a one-on-one interview show. After that would be Sports Exchange, where we talk all sports from NHL to NFL to MLB to NBA to WNBA. We've talked college sports and even cornhole. Yes, I said cornhole. Thursday nights, Pundit's Pundit. We always take a unique perspective and talk about different things related to. Typically, it has a related to sports, but it doesn't always have to be. And then after that, we fire up nights. Now, I will say that our programming will change next week. You will not see as many shows. I know Inside the Pigskin will appear on Tuesday night. I do not know exactly what will appear the rest of the week because we will be covering the NFL draft, and it depends on sound quality, if we can do broadcast from there or if it'll just be videos that we're taping. I do not know. But if you've subscribed and you've clicked that notification button, you will get notifications as soon as we go up live for whatever it is that we're sharing with you. So do that, but also all the people that are on our channel, a lot of them have their own YouTube channels. We ask you to actually subscribe and watch theirs and support them because they are supporting us. So please, everybody, support them as well. We appreciate everybody that has commented in the chat room. If you like to listen to podcasts, any place you get your podcasts, you can find us. If you ever want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott 954-304-4941. Website www.southfloridatribune.com. Jeremy, George, Scott, all right. I take pictures, put them up there. I'm better behind the camera than I am writing. So I'm just saying, the truth. I'm okay with saying that. And if you have any ideas for show ideas or anything else, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you missed any of that, it scrolls throughout the programming there. You can always go back and rewatch and get whatever you missed. We appreciate all of you from coming in the chat room and watching us and sharing us. And we look forward. And yes, the title is true tonight. We are excited. We can't wait. And I can say this. I am coming to your guys' city.
It's a
Hey,
packet.
welcome.
Yes, it is. I'll see if I can pester you all from afar. Going to the draft Thursday and Friday.
All right, James.
The draft. Let's go. All right.
And let's also not forget to give a final plug. Our comrade, Mel Farr Jr., is going to honor his daddy along with his sister and his brother Mike in Detroit on Wednesday night, April 24th, and tickets are still available. It's going to be great. It's going to be a fashion show, a comedy show, and football talk, delicious food at a restaurant. More of a nightclub in downtown Detroit called Open Mike, Mike. But Melfar Jr. is going to be here, and it's going to be a great tribute to his father. And isn't that funny? April 20th event, Melfar wore number 24. Remember, Jeremy? And the event's going to be on the same day, the 24th, for the first time ever. Detroit's hosting the draft, so great opportunity for you guys to turn back the clock a little bit and say hello to and thank the Farr family for all they've done for Lions football.
I agree. Jeremy, you want to end our show like you normally do?
Try every day to be a better person than you were the day before. It's the only way to make the world a better place. It starts right here. Much love to everybody in the chat. Thank you to those that were commenting from my channel, and thank you for the regulars. Here's your dog chat salute to the ones in the South Florida Tribune. Have a blessed evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For us next week. Have a great one.
Enjoy.